Look at a typical day. The constant ping of notifications, the pressure to succeed, the baseline anxiety of trying to exist in the modern world. It is a lot, and it hurts. When we feel that overwhelm, we rarely think to turn to philosophy. We tend to picture ancient philosophy as a dusky academic exercise, old men in togas arguing over abstract definitions in a vacuum. But historically, that isn't how philosophy started. The greatest schools of thought were forged in the fires of actual, severe crises. They were designed as emergency triage, practical toolkits to keep people mentally alive. Over the last 2,400 years, humanity has continuously upgraded how it handles the pain of existence. We can track this evolution through 3 distinct eras: trying to fix the world, learning to accept the world, and eventually weaponizing the pain itself. Tracing this timeline does something incredibly useful. It forces us to stop waiting for a magical, one-size-fits-all cure for life's difficulty, and lets us assemble a blueprint to survive our own specific brand of chaos. We start here, Athens, roughly 2,400 years ago. It's a city of immense wealth and the birthplace of democracy, but it is also prone to chaotic, poorly thought-out mob rule. Born into this environment, Plato diagnosed the core problem. He argued that humans suffer because we blindly follow what the Greeks called doxa, popular, unexamined opinions that trick us into valuing the wrong careers, relationships, and goals. Plato's immediate solution was internal. We have to actively cure our own ignorance through relentless self-examination. By engaging in rigorous logical discussion, what we call the Socratic method, we stop letting our impulses drag us around like wild horses. Logic shouldn't stay trapped in our heads. It has to reshape our external lives. Plato argued we should selectively choose lovers in art, not because they make us comfortable, but because they directly challenge our flaws and educate our souls toward better ideals. To Plato, this restructuring scales to society itself, reforming government into a rigid pyramid. Power is stripped from the masses and placed at the apex, with perfectly wise philosopher kings. This acts as a massive filter, forcing chaotic human impulses through pure reason. Under Plato's strategy, suffering is an error in the system. It's a bug to be corrected. To find fulfillment, you take active, logical control to fix both yourself and the external world. Plato's system contains a glaring vulnerability. What are you supposed to do when a crisis hits that logic cannot solve? When society collapses or a random tragedy strikes, and the external world simply cannot be fixed? Around 300 BCE, a wealthy merchant named Zeno of Cyprus found out the hard way. He survived a shipwreck but lost his entire fortune, washing up in Athens with absolutely nothing. He experienced a total loss of external control. Zeno helped build Stoicism, proposing the universe operates on a massive, interconnected web of cause and effect called logos. Since we cannot control this unstoppable momentum, external events don't cause suffering. It comes entirely from our internal judgments across that distinct boundary. To protect against this, the Stoics developed a specific defense mechanism. By practicing 4 virtues, practical wisdom, temperance, justice, and courage, you systematically neutralize your emotional reactions to things you cannot control. Decades later, Marcus Aurelius proved this concept in the field. He used this exact psychological framework to maintain sanity while leading the Roman Empire through nearly 2 decades of brutal, unchangeable warfare. Stoicism shifts the control center completely inward. You don't try to micromanage the uncontrollable variables of the outside world. Instead, you build an impenetrable emotional shield against them. By the 19th century, a new kind of crisis emerged. The dominance of absolute religious faith was collapsing. Without that framework of meaning, humanity was suddenly staring into a void of pessimism and nihilism. Friedrich Nietzsche looked at this void and rejected the previous solutions. He didn't want Plato's idealized logic, and he despised the Stoic and Christian instinct to endure, numb, or detach from raw pain. Nietzsche made a deeply controversial argument. He claimed that trying to minimize suffering is a mistake. Pain isn't a bug in the system, and it isn't a tragedy to be shielded against. It is an essential, necessary feature of a vital life. Instead of repressing negative emotions, he instructed people to actively embrace them. Take envy, for example. Rather than feeling ashamed of it, use it as raw data. The people you envy are a direct map to what you actually desire out of life. Nietzsche's ultimate goal was the Übermensch, an idealized state of self-mastery achieved by constantly destroying your old self through a cycle of dissatisfaction, action, and growth. This engine runs on the will to power, using inevitable pain as fuel to drive an upward trajectory of psychological strength. Nietzsche weaponizes suffering. In a universe without pre-packaged meaning, you don't find a purpose, and you don't protect yourself from the world. You violently and creatively forge your own meaning, using your own pain as the raw material. These three eras are not competing facts to memorize. They are an interconnected survival toolkit that remains highly effective for navigating modern life. When you find yourself trapped in bad habits, toxic relationships, or flawed cultural assumptions, you pull out the Platonic tool. You apply relentless logical inquiry to diagnose the error and fix the broken system. When you face irreversible tragedies or massive injustices that you cannot immediately change, you switch to the Stoic tool. Nelson Mandela leaned heavily on the writings of Marcus Aurelius to maintain his psychological resolve through 27 years of brutal imprisonment. And when society's default paths feel hollow, you reach for the Nietzschean tool. You embrace the intense friction of radical independence, using your own dissatisfaction to carve out subjective, deeply personal goals. There is no single, objective, capital T truth that will magically cure the pain of life. But thousands of years of Western philosophy guarantee one thing. When the chaos hits, you have the power to look at it, pick up the right tool, and build your own meaning.